Hi guys, welcome back to 17 square meters garden. Today I'm gonna be dividing and propagating some of my overgrown perennial plants. And I think a lot of you may be interested in that topic, what to do with your plants once they outgrow their containers. Today we are only gonna talk about herbaceous perennials, but later in late winter, beginning of spring, I'm also gonna make a video about trees and shrubs and what to do with those once they outgrow their containers, but you don't necessarily want to or have the possibility to transplant them into a larger pot. But trees and shrubs, that's a different category of plants. They need a bit different approach. So today we are only gonna talk about herbaceous perennials. I'm gonna show you some examples from my garden. We are gonna divide some hostas, heucheras, tiarella, ornamental grasses, and more. So let's begin. Okay, so let's start with why we even have to divide our perennial plants. As you all know, perennial plants are plants that grow for more than 2 years. We have evergreen perennial plants, so those that keep their foliage year-round. They do drop their leaves, just not all at once like deciduous plants do. And then we have those perennials that die down to the ground level during winter, and then they come back again in the spring. So as those plants grow and mature, the center of the plant starts to be a little bit overcrowded. And here we have a perfect example of my tiarella. It doesn't look as good anymore, it doesn't perform as good as it used to. It has that tired look because it just simply doesn't have enough room for growth and development. And especially in containers, plants can also become pot-bound. So it is a good idea to repot and to divide your perennial plants every couple of years. And obviously this way you also get extra plants. When should you divide your perennial plants? Technically, you can do it pretty much at any time of the year. If you do it in the summer, you will just have to keep your plant really well watered and ideally to put it somewhere in partial shade. But the best idea would be to do it either in the spring or early autumn. Okay, step 1, take your plant out of its pot. But don't just pull it like this, because you risk to damage your plant. Ideally, place it on the side and try to gently tease it out of the container. Step 2, shake off excess soil. Step 3, different plants have different root systems. Some will be easier to propagate than others. Some plants produce little plantlets or little clamps on the side, and it's really easy to just pull them apart with your hands. But other plants, they have very thick, very large fibrous root systems, so it will be impossible to just divide them with your hands. So a pair of sharp pruners, sharp scissors, or even a knife, and you can cut the entire plant in half or in several smaller clumps. You can obviously still propagate more, you could divide it further, but no matter how many divisions you make, each division needs to have at least few healthy roots. Once you divide your perennial plants, pot them immediately. For potting perennial plants, you can use either a multi-purpose potting mix or you can use potting soil, so that's a potting mix that contains actual garden soil. I use my own mix, so I use garden soil mixed with compost and a bit of perlite. Whatever potting mix or potting soil you choose, I highly recommend adding a bit of organic matter, either compost, humus, worm castings. Your perennial plants will really benefit from that. So let's pot those divisions. Obviously, don't forget to water your plants right after. Okay, moving on. Next example will be this beautiful ornamental grass, Carex Ever Gold, very winter hardy, evergreen foliage. I think ornamental grasses are such a beautiful plants to add to any garden, whether that's a normal, real garden or a balcony garden. I think it's, first of all, it's nice to have an evergreen plant, especially during cold winter months when not much is happening in the garden, nothing is blooming. These plants, they really provide a pop of color, and they just make you happy when you look at them and you see something beautiful outside. This one has beautiful variegated leaves. It's very resistant. It grows really rapidly. I already divided it last year. Last year it was as large as you can see it right now. I divided it in half and it grew really, really fast. So that's a really lovely plant to to divide, to propagate, and to add in few different areas of your garden or a balcony garden. I think that's such a beautiful accent. So really easy to propagate, pretty much the same as with Heuchera. You just gently remove it out of its container. Shake off excess soil. This one is a bit pot bound, so that was a good idea to repot it. Just gonna cut a bit through the roots here because they are a little bit compacted. Okay, and we can cut right through the center of the plant. Okay, it's time for heucheras. Heucheras are such a beautiful plants. They grow super well in the shade, in part shade, even in the sun. But the darker the leaves, the more sun they can handle. And this one is such a pretty one. I don't know exact variety because I bought it at some plant fair and it came without a plant tag. But it's such a beautiful plant, but it looks really sad right now because it's been a couple of years since I repotted it. And one thing with heucheras is that as they age, they start to grow those really tall, very thick stems. So the problem is that after the plant looks a bit unruly because those stems, they shoot in all kinds of direction, and your plant is not anymore a really cute, beautiful mound. It's just like, very strange, oddly shaped heuchera. So what I like to do is every spring, at the beginning of spring, if I notice that the plant has developed those really large thick stems, I cut them back almost to the ground level, and this kind of rejuvenates the plant and helps the plant to grow in a nice, beautiful mound instead of just shooting those random large stems in all directions. So let's repot this one. Gently take it out of its pot. At the beginning of this video, I said that some plants, some perennial plants produce those individual plantlets or clumps, and you can see the perfect example here with this heuchera. When you look in the center of the plant, you can see those separate parts, and you can just gently pull them. Don't even need to use any scissors or anything like that. And this is the best way to propagate your heucheras. Someone contacted me actually asking, saying that they try to propagate heuchera from the leaves. So they try to take a leaf like this and they try to root it in water. That won't work with heucheras. You need to either divide it, or you would need to cut a part of the stem. So if you cut it here this way and you try to root this part in water, this will work, but the leaf propagation will not work with heucheras. But the best way, as I said, is to just pull them apart and pot those divisions individually. So as you can see from that one heuchera, we could technically have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 divisions. So we could have 9 individual plants. I'm not gonna pot them up individually because I don't need this many heucheras. I'm just gonna group them together and plant them in 2 different containers. Okay, you guys, and the last example will be Hosta. This beautiful large Hosta with white fragrant flowers is called Hosta Royal. The flowers smell really nice and really sweet. I personally like Hosta flowers, so I leave them. I know that some people find them unattractive and they remove them. So if you enjoy Hosta flowers and your Hosta is blooming at the moment, wait a little longer before you start to divide your plant, because the moment you divide it, most likely the flowers will die, because the plant can't focus energy on flower production and new root establishment at the same time. So most likely the flowers will die the moment you divide your plant. And honestly, the division of perennial plants is going to be the same more or less for every single plant, but I'm still going to show you the example on the Hosta because I guess it's helpful, especially when you're a beginner gardener, to see different examples on different plants and to see someone else do it so that you feel more reassured and you feel more confident doing it yourself. This plant is a beast. I've had it for like 5 years, I think, and it grows really rapidly. I have to divide it every single year. Oh my goodness, it's definitely pot bound. So with this Hosta, I'm dividing it, but I won't be keeping new divisions because I don't really have much space for such a large Hosta. So I'm just gonna remove those side clamps, so to release the compaction and to give the plant more room to grow. So I'm just gonna gently spread it with my hands. This one is really easy to propagate. As you can see, the clamps, the divisions, they are really easy to separate from the mother plant. And you can pot each single one of them individually. Look at those nice healthy roots. So I'm only going to be potting 3 divisions out of all of those divisions that I just separated. This way the plant will have more room to grow. So obviously the plants right after division, they don't look like much. They look pretty bold, but I'm going to show you an example of a plant that I divided earlier this spring. So here is my Heuchera Black Pearl. I divided it in the spring and look how beautiful it looks, how large it is. Beautiful dark shiny leaves growing perfectly healthy. Okay, you guys, so this is gonna be it for today's video. I hope that you found it helpful. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you again in the next one. Bye!